My God's a king of the giants. My God's a king of the lions. Hey friends, this is King of Me. This is super fun to play. I hope you love this simplified version of Rend Collective's song. Make sure to stop the video. If you click on the description below, I will have the printable chord sheet for you and it'll make a lot more sense. All right, let's jump into it. So in this song, we have G, C, D, and then our two minor chords are E minor and A minor. So 5 chords. Let's look for a G note. So if we look for this group of 3 black notes, the G is tucked in between there. Play every finger on a note and play every other note. So we have G, B, D is a G chord. Those 3 notes, okay? If we move up one set of notes from there, we're in the A minor position. So we have A, C, E. Okay, move up just 2 sets of notes here, and you're in the C position. C, E, G. Okay, then we have a, let's move up one set of notes, and we are in the D position, and we're just going to play our middle finger in the black note there. So we have D, F sharp, A. That makes a triangle shape, and that's the only triangle shape that we have for this song. So we have a D triangle, if that helps you to remember it that way. Okay, and then our last chord is E minor. So move up one set of notes, and here's the E minor. E, G, B. Okay, so those 5 chords. So let's review. G chord, A minor, C, D triangle chord there, and then E minor. Great. Okay, so I'm just moving these 2 fingers out of the way so that you can see which fingers I'm playing, and it makes editing a little bit easier so you could see which notes are on each key. All right, so left hand is going to be playing single notes to keep it simple. So we're going to put pinky on G, line up these 5 fingers, and then you don't have to move this hand the whole song. So we're going to play G to G single note. Okay, A minor to A, C to C, D chord, triangle to D in the bass, okay? And then E minor, we're just gonna open this thumb up one note and play that E to the E minor in the right hand, okay? So don't move your hand out of position, that gets you lost. Just play this E minor, E note here, okay? All right, so let's, I'm gonna sing through the chorus a bit, and then we're gonna break down the rhythm of how this song comes together with the 2 hands and the vocals, all right? My God's the king of the giants. My God's the king of the lions. My God's the king of the creatures of the deep. My God's the king of me. So this is a real fast beat kind of punk song. It's super fun. Your kids will love it, or you might just jazz and start dancing around singing it. So this rhythm I call 1-to-2 ratio, or together, right, together, right, together, right, together, right. Works pretty beautifully with this song to just give you a good foundation, just a good shell to kind of play this song, and then you can add your own spin on it, okay? So let's go through it slowly together on the chorus, starting out with this G chord, and if you just want to do right hand only for a bit, that's fine, and then introduce the left hand when you feel comfortable. I also want to talk about patterns, because in music, oftentimes you'll see a lot of repetition. So in the chorus, it goes G, C, G, and then D, C, G, then E minor, C, G, and then back to D, C, G. So there's a lot of that, you know, starting out with a chord and then the C, G. You know, and then it kind of plunks down. I kind of go, lions, okay, giants. All right, back to it. Let's start with the G chord together. My God's the king of the, okay, C chord, giants. Okay, you're noticing I'm writing the chord above the word or the syllable in which that chord change should come, and that should kind of help you a little bit to learn to anticipate the chord change coming, but also to kind of know when you need to change that chord, okay? So let's do that line again. My God's the king of the, okay, these are just going to go giants, okay, giants, okay, then we move to the D chord, triangle. My God's the king of the C, lions, okay, notice that was just 1, 1, okay, it wasn't like together, right, okay. Okay, third line, E minor is just opening up this thumb here. My God's a king of the C chord. Creatures of the deep. Okay, D chord. My God's a king of C, B, and back to the G. So the C and the G's kind of go quickly. 1, 1. Okay. All right. So let's look at verses because there's going to be, and I don't have my page up. Sorry. There's going to be just a lot of repetition with verse 1, 2, and 3. Thought I had my page assigned here. Okay. So let's start out with that E minor there. And you're just opening this thumb gently. Okay. Have you heard a story about my C friend King Dave? Okay, that was just 1, 1, 1-to-1 ratio, so to speak. Okay, wouldn't let the giant stand. Here's that C again. In his way, he said, stay on that G and be my sling, 'cause he's A minor is right next door. Not that tall. Okay, D chord coming up. My God is bigger and I'll see. Watch him fall. So you're kind of noticing this pattern that you're doing this chord. The first chord of the line is going together, right? And then it's going just chord change, and then together, right, chord change, together, right, chord change, together, right, chord change. And you notice that in the chorus and the verses. So if you can get it, at least that's how I'm playing it. You can find your own little rhythm that works good for you. Okay, so verse 1 and 2 are going to be the exact same chords, exact same pattern there with that together, right, chord change. Okay, all right, let's take a look at that bridge. D chord here, that D triangle. This is more than history. E minor. He will do the C. Same for me. Okay, D chord. Like Jonah and the whale at sea when I'm E minor. Lost and afraid all of C. Alone in the dark, you're D with me. Oh, you're with me. Okay. So this song is pretty simple in just there's a lot of repetition. You could just go right hand only, then left hand only, then bring the two hands together. Verse 1 and 2 are the same. And it kind of has that same pattern, like we talked about. Together, right, chord change. The bridge is the only exception to that, but you can just see the chord, like I said, is written above the word or the syllable if I do them right. And that should help you along the way too. All right, I'm going to play it beginning to end. I want you to play along with me. If you mess up, when you mess up, just find your next spot to jump in with me, next chord, next line, syllable, and let's have a lot of fun. Here we go. Here's this. A lot of people want to know the starting pitch. My God's the king of the giants. That's your melody line. So this is the starting pitch. Okay? My God's a king of the giants. My God's a king of the lions. My God's a king of the creatures of the deep. My God's a king of me. Have you heard the story of my friend called Dave? Wouldn't let the giant stand in his way. He said, hand me my sling, 'cause he's not that tall. And my God is bigger and I'll watch him fall. And my God's a king of the giants. My God's a king of the lions. My God's a king of the creatures of the deep. My God's the king of me. Have you heard the one about this guy called Dan? Yes, he was a mighty holy praying man. They said throw him to the den of the scary beasts, but God saved our hero from the lion's teeth. Hey! My God's a king of the giants. My God's a king of the lions. My God's a king of the creatures of the deep. My God's a king of me. My God's the king of the giants. My God's the king of the lions. My God's the king of the creatures of the deep. My God's the king of me. This is more than history. He will do the same for me. Like Jonah and the whale at sea. When I'm lost and afraid, all alone in the dark, you're with me. You're with me. Hey! My God's the king of the giants. My God's the king of the lions. My God's the king of the creatures of the sea. My God's the king of me. My God's the king of the giants. My God's the king of the lions. My God's the king of the creatures of the deep. My God's the king of me. My God's the king of me. My God's the king of me. And my God is bigger and I watch him fall. And my God's the king of the giants. My God's the king of the lions. My God's the king of the creatures of the deep. My God's the king of me.